Great privilege that I get to share with you a snapshot of the activities that have been achieved over the last 6 years through the Caring for Our Country program, which concluded last June. Tonight or this afternoon is really about recognising the contribution that the community has made to improving our region through protecting our unique plants and animals, managing our land and waterways, and sharing knowledge and skills in natural resource management. But before I start, let's speak by itself.
No, I did it.
You did it.
Sorry,
that's all right. That's the joke.
I'm going to get the circle. I've only just started.
Before I start going into the achievements, I thought I'd provide a little bit of background because all this really started back in 2008. You might not think that was a long time ago, but as you know, it had an iPhone back then, so things were a little bit different at least. So, to take you back, 6 years ago, we just completed the National Heritage Trust and National Action Plan programs, which were the love child of this man, spawned out of a somewhat unholy alliance with the Greens following the sale of Telstra. From that, we entered into a transition program which led on to the love child of this man, which was, of course, the Caring for Our Country program. And look, for those that are around, it's fair to say it wasn't an entirely seamless transition for the community. There are challenges going from local priorities to federal ones, dealing with reduced funding and a whole new language of things such as merry and specificity. So it was a tough time. A part of the changes meant that the community had fewer resources to respond to the needs of farmers and land managers, and in a lot of cases fewer staff to actually deliver projects. There are two key things that I believe at this time that really helped us navigate through this time and to be able to continue on. The most critical was the willingness of the community and community groups to accept the conditions of the new program and find ways to adapt to make the national priorities fit their local ones. And the second thing that was happening was the wholesale changes that were happening to South Coast NRM's management and governance structure, which made us as an organisation much better to respond to things like competitive funding. So whilst tonight is really about recognising the achievements of the projects, I think it's really important also to acknowledge the contributions that the chairs and the committees of the sub-regional groups made, the decisions they made, the decisions of our non-government partners, our government organisations, and also the interim board of South Coast NRM in adapting to what was a fairly radical change in funding programs between the old program and the new one. So, that said, how important was Caring for Our Country for the region for the past 6 years? Well, since 2008, the NRM community in the South Coast has been able to invest $26.7 million into restoring the region's unique assets and farmland, first through the transition year program, then through the regional base level funding through Caring for Our Country, and also through 3 successful competitive projects, the first of which was the Lake Warden project that was delivered here, obviously. As you can see, the funding from the federal government quickly became really critical for our region, making up over 90% of our funding, something we touched on earlier today. The investment that flowed from it involved almost 250 projects, around 50 major partners, and over 7,000 farmers, volunteers and community members. So what I'm going to show you tonight is really a snapshot of all that was achieved through there. It's very much a small bit, otherwise we would be here for 40 or 50 minutes. The information's been drawn from the extensive reports that have been produced by project officers, and all of those are kept in our library and our new learning centre in Albany. So if you're ever over that way and you're interested in finding out more information, we're welcome to come and have a look through the 20 or 30 odd League of folders that make up all of that information. Thanks. So, the achievements, what's been happening within projects, what has the community really achieved for the program? The investment through Caring for Our Country has allowed our partners to complete over 1,000 hectares of revegetation across the region. This has occurred, as I say, across the region, driven really heavily by the sub-regional groups, including the Esperance Regional Forum, Ravensthorpe Agricultural Initiative Network, Fitzgerald Biosphere Group, North Stirling's Palinut Natural Resources, Gillamite, the Oyster Harbour Catchment Group, Torbay Catchment Group and the Wilson Inlet Catchment Committee. The work has occurred on farmland like this to reduce erosion, in paddocks to link pockets of remnant vegetation to improve landscape connectivity, on barren road verges to reduce water erosion, and in urban areas to engage corporates. In fact, if you look at the commitment to revegetation by the community across the region, it's something to be immensely proud of. Just taking our figures alone, since 2005 the community has now revegetated 6,121 hectares of land, which by very conservative figures equates to about 3 million trees. It's probably closer to 5 actually. And of course there's even more revegetation that's been occurring through, delivered independently through groups like Bush Heritage and Greening Australia. That's not included in those figures. So the amount of revegetation has been significant.
Just how many hectares you revegetated? 6,000?
6,121 hectares. So 6,100 hectares. One of the things that I personally find really exciting about this sort of revegetation that's occurred is actually seeing plants and animals returning to previously degraded sites. And a highlight for me for this was late last year when Bush Heritage found possums migrating back out of the remnant vegetation into their paddocks, which they'd revegetated 5 years earlier. So it's actually having some demonstrable results now. As well as restoring degraded environments, the community has been much more proactive in caring for our country and protecting high-value ecosystems from threats like dieback. All of the sub-regional groups across the region now have hygiene plans in place to guide their works, which is an excellent innovation, excellent outcome. In addition to that, broad-scale local area dieback management plans were completed for Mount Lindsay and the Walpole Wilderness, whilst nearly 700,000 hectares of remnant vegetation and 872 kilometres of road verges were assessed for their dieback status. And in particular, there's a really strong partnership over this part of the world with the Esperance, Shire of Esperance and Shire of Ravensthorpe in doing that work. This work was also complemented by actions by the Department of Parks and Wildlife that protected some of the most threatened plants and ecological communities in the state across 200 hectares of the Stirling Ranges and the Mount Lindsay using phosphite treatment. Fencing is another one of those activities that's been predominantly delivered through our sub-regional groups and also with South Coast NRM through some incentives in our biodiversity team. Through caring for our country and the transition year, 562 kilometres of fencing has been installed, protecting over 5,300 hectares of remnant vegetation in newly established plants. Quite significant. The region's commitment to sustainable agriculture continued through caring for our country. And what's likely to be the last hurrah for broad-scale incentives-based perennial pastures projects, more than 7,500 hectares of pastures were established to assist farmers with reducing wind and water erosion and also as well as to provide a summer feed option. Meanwhile, farmers have continued to show an immense appetite for information, with almost 800 farmers engaging with experts to improve their soil management, reducing the risk of soil acidification, losses through erosion, and to improve soil carbon content of their soils. As well as this, they also undertook broad-scale soil acidity testing across 115,000 hectares of farmland. So it's significant impacts. On strategic matters, the region's commitment to future agricultural planning was demonstrated by South Coast NRM convening a Farm Forestry Futures Forum and also a Resilient Landscapes Forum. And both of these explored the planning questions around land capability, land use and sustainable industries. On other strategic matters relating to sustainable agriculture and biodiversity conservation, the community-focused NRM committee, which we spoke about this afternoon, devoted time to building their understanding of the extension of the State Barrier Fence by consulting with groups like the Northern Mallee and Ravensthorpe Declared Species Group. This is really important in forming up and providing an expert opinion to the South Coast NRM board, which allowed them then to take a position for the organisation on the extension of the State Barrier Fence. In the meantime, the Declared Species Groups, along with other groups, engaged over 200 landholders to deliver around 1 million hectares of control, removing over 5,000 foxes, cats and rabbits, and reducing wild dog-related attacks on livestock by 90%. Another really great initiative of Caring for a Country in relation to invertebrate pest control was to take the opportunity to coordinate the control delivered by the community with that done by a feral cat baiting program delivered by the Department of Parks and Wildlife, particularly focusing around Fitzgerald River National Park, Cape Arid National Park over here, and also the Nates Land Nature Reserve. This allowed, for the first time in some areas, concurrent treatment of publicly managed lands and private lands at the same time, which has really maximised the impacts on livestock, as well as threatened species like western ground parrot, malleefowl, chuditch, dibblers and heath mice. There was also quite a strong partnership continued between the Department of Parks and Wildlife and the Lake Muir-Dembarker Community Feral Pig Eradication Group, a really strong group in the west of the region. This collaboration has protected 600,000 hectares of land, including 4,600 hectares of Ramsar wetlands around Lake Muir. It's the other wetland in our Ramsar wetland in our region. They've destroyed 1,218 pigs over the 6-year period in the Lake Muir and the Walpole Wilderness area. There was a really significant focus on weed control treatment in Caring for Our Country, with over 3,800 hectares treated for gorse, bridal creeper, African box fawn and blackberry in particular. For gorse, the constant control and follow-up in a collaboration between an Aboriginal work team, the Department of Agriculture and Food and landholders has seen significant progression now towards eradicating this weed from Western Australia. Similarly, there was a really concerted effort between the Aboriginal work team again, the Ravensthorpe Progress Association, Ravensthorpe Agricultural Initiative Network and local weed controllers in Ravensthorpe and also here in Esperance to treat over 1,730 hectares of African box fawn over 57 properties. On a smaller, more localised scale, there was a continued collaboration between groups like the Denmark Weed Action Group and the Aboriginal work team to control blackberry infestations in culturally important sites along the Denmark River. More broadly, the involvement of the Aboriginal community with NRM has built upon the region's deserved reputation for investing in key projects that are delivered on country for Aboriginal groups. In this case, a planting day at Paddy Coyne in Albany provided a great opportunity to demonstrate the protection of culturally important sites to students, whereas in other areas, the community assisted with identifying, protecting and restoring sites in places like the Oyster Harbour Fish Traps, Ewell Park, Mount Ridley, Blue Lake, Cape Le Grand and Quagey Beach, amongst others. The work of the team over the period of Caring for Our Country and the transition year and also the preceding program saw them awarded the National Landcare Award in 2010 for working with the community to restore and protect places of cultural significance. A very deserved award reflecting the commitment of both the community and an Aboriginal work team to collaborate on projects being delivered on country. There was also quite a continued effort in supporting coastal community groups across the region, with over 100 projects that increased the community's knowledge, skills and participation in natural resource management. Worked with land managers and volunteer groups to deliver on-ground coastal rehabilitation, guided really strongly by the South Coast Management Group. And also projects that educated the community about their impacts on the environment for such things as shorebirds, coastal gardens, estuaries and fish monitoring, as well as a number of other sort of workshops. Collectively, over 1,500 people volunteered or attended these events over the period. In regards to investing in freshwater environments, Esperance had a real win. The rest of the region probably didn't so much. But the main focus from Caring for Our Country was in restoring Lake Warden and Gore wetlands with the assistance of the Esperance Regional Forum and the technical support of the Department of Parks and Wildlife and the Department of Agriculture and Food, WA. Over the course of the past 6 years, 166 hectares of revegetation, 450 hectares of perennial pastures and 59 kilometres of fencing has been implemented. Complementing this, the Department of Parks and Wildlife undertook bird surveys of the lakes, as you probably know, which has shown a return of nesting shallow wading birds, which is a fantastic a goal, which was one of the key measures of success for both this project and significantly enhanced by the drainage infrastructure that's been established in the lake. So, so it's been a fantastic outcome. Equally as fantastic is to hear the stories of some of the paper barks actually re-sprouting after years of looking dead as a doornail. So some really fantastic outcomes for this part of the region. As a result of this and the previous work, the community's investment in Lake Warden was recognised by being awarded the 2010 Rivers, Estuaries and Wetlands Award in the WA Environment Awards in 2010. Finally, in the regional capacity area, the needs of individuals and groups from various sectors of the community, including those not engaged in NRM, were determined across the region. Detailed community profiles identified demographic information, land use, community groups, and levels of engagement for 7 sub-regional areas. The profiles have been used to inform the planning for each of the sub-regions, which have been really useful in identifying new project opportunities, which prepared the community for the phase we're in now. So, planning that actually has an outcome. It's fantastic. So just to sum up, the collaboration between the community, the federal government resources and the structure of South Coast NRM was significant in allowing the region to continue to invest in improving in the environment and our farms through caring for our country. So to the community that's here in its broader sense, you have my sincere thanks and congratulations for all that's been achieved. It's been a truly significant achievement. To everyone else, and I'm not sure there are many other people here that are not directly involved, but my concluding thoughts are these. How will you help contribute to the future of our region? Will you get in touch with one of these partners that are shown here and ask how you might be able to help? Will you go home to your own properties and look at how you might be able to make it better land for wildlife, reducing weeds, fencing, whatever? Will you donate money to these types of groups if you can't do either of these? Or will you simply just go out and tell someone of all the fantastic work that's done in your region by your community? Everything helps in this game. Thanks for your time.